Hello, everyone, and welcome to Indie Game Arcade, a podcast all about indie games. And this episode, we are talking about On Your Tail, Starless Abyss, and Dice Legends. My name is Chris.
And I'm Joseph.
And we're recording this at a very inopportune time because the Game Awards are literally happening this second, like as we're recording this. So instead of watching it, we're doing an episode.
I'm going to predict Ballionaire is going to win Indie Game of the Year. And maybe debut Indie Game of the Year. That's my prediction. As far as Game of the Year, I'm gonna say Astrobot, probably.
Yeah, probably. It got nominated for everything. I think Ballionaire deserves it. I think Lorelei and the Laser Eyes will win it. My heart is with Ballionaire. That's who I want to win. Congratulations on to Neva, which is at the moment the only indie game as of when we started recording that has won an award so far. In the category for Games for Impact, that one, congratulations, Neva. And because they said it, now I know how to say it. So now,
there you go.
When eventually I can do a Let's Play of it, then I won't look stupid unless they said it wrong and this is all a conspiracy. And now I'm going to be paranoid about it.
It's a conspiracy to make you look dumb.
Hey, man, you never know.
Game start!
We're going to start with On Your Tail. This is a game that releases December 16th, 2024. So it'll be out by the time this episode goes live. Developed by Memorable Games, published by Humble Games. Sounds familiar, huh? For a short description, On Your Tail is a cozy detective adventure set in a seaside village, Borgo Marina. I don't know if that's how you say it. It's Italian. It might be like Borgo. Who knows? You don't know Italian, do you?
Try to
speak
no way
Italian.
Italian.
Try
Never.
it.
I wouldn't. I won't.
Pasta. I don't know. Combining life simulation, mystery solving, and social interactions, players step into the shoes of Diana, a writer-turned-amateur detective who is new to the island and stumbles across a mystery involving a phantom thief. So this is one that I talked about towards the end of the last episode of one that I was really interested in. And I got to play a little bit of it, and I really, really had a good time with it. And I think it has a lot of really interesting aspects to it that were worth bringing it to an episode. So first of all, this is a sandbox island, so you can really go anywhere at any time, meet people, attempt different interactions whenever you want. How I did this was there was only so many people walking around. So what I did was I went to every single door I could and knocked on every door. And an interaction would start between my character, is it Diana? Diana. And each of those characters. And what I think is just kind of funny from a suspension of disbelief thing is that you're literally just going around this town knocking on people's doors for no reason other than just they'll come up and be like, oh, hello, I haven't met you before. And you're just yeah, I'm new in town.
You're just detecting things. You're investigating. So you have to knock on everybody's door.
You just knock on everyone's door. Yeah, I did that before I even started a mystery. I was just going around meeting people.
That's why I knock on everyone's doors.
That's true. That's how we met.
When I started reading the description, okay, I know it looks great visually, but I know it's not a game for me right off the bat because of the first three words. A cozy detective adventure. So automatically I'm out. I don't like detective.
You don't like detecting.
I don't enjoy
cozy. Yeah, you don't like to feel cozy.
The only word is adventure. I'm in. They had me in an adventure. They lost me with cozy and detective.
You want straightforward, anxiety-inducing adventure is what you're looking for.
I need action, no coziness.
So one of the other big aspects of this is these social interactions. So as you meet people, you have conversations, you build relationships with them, which can grow. You can become friends. You can become more than friends. Not sure about becoming enemies with people, but I would assume that you probably could because this is a choices matter game. So I would assume that means there could be some negative outcomes. I don't know the full extent of that or how deep it would go. I don't think you're going to end up with somebody outright hating you, but I mean, who knows? I'll probably find a way. What's fun about this is every person that you meet, you earn a trading card with them on it, like a little holographic trading card that has a little bit of info about them. And then that trading card gets added to over time as you like have more interactions with them and you learn more. And like, as someone that was a huge fan of those X-Men trading cards back in the 90s, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I like that. I like that aspect of collecting all these cards. That's fun.
Yeah. So is it like you have the cards and then you find a spot where you're like, I'm going to pull my timid girl card and play it here, and it solves the puzzle?
There literally is a timid girl in the thing. Okay, I need to ask this. Did you just make up on the spot the idea of timid girl, or did you read that there is a character that you first meet and you don't know her name and it goes by timid girl?
I was just saying random words that go together.
I love it.
But I mean, that just seems like something that would be in something like this. You know what I mean? It's just like shy guy, timid girl, things like that.
Yeah.
Like if they don't have their names directly, unless you get their names and that's what's on the card.
No, at first, like it's like there's this one specific girl that I literally think it's timid girl. I'm not even kidding. When you first meet her, you don't know her name. It's like she's like so in her own world and stuff that like it's obvious that you have to come back and talk to her at other times to get to know her better before you learn her name.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah. It'll be a thing that like you will be able to learn more about these people and other conversations as this like game progresses and as you do more things around the island. And you were asking about like, so solving the mystery, would you just like pull the card and be like, oh, it was this person? I'm glad you asked, because the mystery solving aspect of this is actually like the coolest part. So you get, just like you get a card for each person that you meet, you also get a card for each mystery that you end up with that just kind of gives the basics of like where you need to start, like who you need to talk to and where they are. So these cards will get added to and updated as well as you're working through this mystery. And one caveat I do want to say real quick too is that, let's say if you have a couple on you, or you looked at it and then you goof around for a little bit, go do like a little mini game somewhere, and then you forget what you're supposed to do, because that's how I function. There's like these little spots around the island where you sit down at like a rest point, like a bench or a chair, and your quest cards can become like available again. So then you can sit and look through them and kind of reflect on, okay, what do I need to do? Who do I need to talk to? Who is this person? So you can rifle through your cards, figure out where you need to go, and then be on your way. But this is what's cool. So when you are working on a mystery, so you like physically, you go to the spot on the island, you talk to whoever. When you do an investigation, you whip out what's called a chrono lens, which is a little pocket watch that when you flip it up, there's a lens that you can look through that lets you see the environment you're in at the time the crime took place. So like you wouldn't see the perpetrator, but you might see things out of place or something that are different than when you're not looking through it. So items might be missing, things might be moved around. So when you spot something through that chrono lens that doesn't match up with the present, you can click on that and then you add it to a clues card deck. There's a lot of cards here. And then once you're done, you find like all the clues that you can in the scene. This is the fun part that I really like. It puts you into a crime scene recreation mode. So it goes to a completely different game mode than what you've been doing, which is this 3D sandbox world. Instead, now you get this stylized board game or diorama kind of setup where you arrange your clue cards over to the side in the order that you think the events of the crime took place. As you do that, like you're looking at this little kind of like almost like cardboard diorama of the scene, and you have like these little pawn figures that look like little cutouts of the people that would be involved. And they're just kind of like moving around like little figures on a board game, according to the order that you're putting stuff in. You might fail at it a few times, like trying to get the order of things correct and figure out, okay, how exactly did this crime have to play out for all of these things to happen in the order that they did, according to what I saw through this chrono lens and stuff, and according to like what the witnesses told me. So once you get everything lined up, however many times that takes you, and it all matches up, then you can move on with your investigation. It goes back into the 3D open world. You can talk to other people. You can move on with your investigation. More information gets added for you. So I think that is a really, really cool aspect. And I love that idea of like looking down at the diorama, the things moving around. Like that really sold me on this game.
Yeah, I'm looking at a screenshot of that actually right now. It looks really interesting. I love the layout of it and like how the buildings are even like little pop-up buildings made of cardboard or something. So it's like a visual, or I guess, a representation of the scene instead of you doing something like Arkham Asylum where it's like literally showing you things just in a different kind of view. This is a very cool setup. I dig that a lot. And then you're using the cards, I guess, to like lay out kind of what happened or the order. Yeah,
exactly. For example, at least in the demo, like the first thing is like you go to this restaurant and there's like 3 clues that you find. One is when you're looking through your chrono lens in the past, a hat that in the present is usually up on the coat rack is on the floor. There's some cabinets that have obviously been opened and rifled through. There's a specific thing on this counter that is missing, and that's the thing that was reported stolen. All the way across the restaurant on the other side, there are some other things that were disturbed. Like there's a chair that was moved, and there's some bottles that were like messed with. That along with the person who owns the restaurant telling you, hey, like right before this stuff happened, or like I realized I had gotten robbed, like I got a mysterious phone call. So it's like kind of putting all of these events in order and figuring out like at what point did the phone call occur, and then whoever the thief is get inside, where did they go to first? At what point did they steal the thing they stole from the desk? And obviously there's other points in the restaurant. So did they go over here first? What were they doing over here? When you get all those things in order, then you kind of figure out, oh, I know what they took, and I know how they took it and what they did and why some of these things were moved around within the restaurant so that you can see exactly what the thief's movements were.
Yeah, that looks really interesting, or sounds interesting too. So I guess since it is a cozy game, just to set my expectations, it's not like who this thief murdered or anything like that. It's just like the level of like, what did he steal the piece of pie or something?
Well, it was a ship in a bottle. The person was just like, I don't get it. I don't know why they would have taken that. It's not really worth anything. But what they did was they walked over to this other part of the restaurant and poured in this very expensive alcohol into the bottle that was, practically empty except for that ship. And then they left with that. So essentially they were stealing the alcohol without taking the alcohol bottle, so that it wasn't obvious that that's what they really were after.
Yeah, the mislead. Interesting.
Yes.
And you're all
exactly.
And you're just a bunch of cute animal people in this world. What is the main character? Is she like
she's a goat.
A goat. Okay.
Yeah, she's a little goat girl. She's cute. Right. Yeah.
There's cat people. There's bulls.
Oh yeah, there's everyone.
Yaks. It looks like interesting.
There's also a whole bunch of like mini games to play too.
Where did those come into play? Is that part of the story, or is that just like extra things you can do?
One thing that you can do is you can go fishing. Fishing is always satisfying. That's always a great mini game. Like, why not? Mm-hmm. One thing that you can do is play marbles. So like you play marbles on the beach, and it's essentially like it feels sort of like you're playing mini golf. And you can play that against one of the townsfolk or something like that, and you'll have conversations with them as you're playing. They might get a little competitive. It's honestly kind of fun. There's also like a rock skipping game that you can do on the beach where like you chuck the rock and then you're trying to bounce the rock to keep it like flat as it like bounces across the waves, which was kind of satisfying. There's like a cooking mini game that I didn't do, but I know is in there. I'm sure there's probably more than these too, but yeah, there's a bunch of them just kind of sprinkled throughout this game that one, you can just do, for the satisfaction of doing it if you like those kind of things. Like I would go and just fish for a little bit just because I enjoy that stuff. But also, there is the aspect of doing it with someone from the town to try and bolster those relationships. When you reach like a certain threshold, I think, of friendship with those people, you can have them like follow you for a little bit and then have them like, walk around town, have a conversation with them, and then go to like one of these mini games like skipping rocks or something. So
incentivizes it by them potentially helping you in some ways towards the case, but it's not like a necessary thing or something you have to do. It is an optional path.
Yeah, exactly. And basically like how this game flows is like you'll complete like mystery A, that might lead to mystery B, or you'll complete mystery A and that might cause a new social event or a character to change their attitude towards you in some way. Like maybe someone you met earlier maybe heard about what you did for someone else and ask you to solve something for them the next time you interact. Or there's like some townsfolk that don't like each other and they might hear, oh, you helped blah, blah, blah with this. Well, then I don't want to talk to you right now because that's my brother and I hate my brother. There's like an overarching mystery that in the small bit I played, I didn't get to see much of how that plays out. Really, I just got like a tiny little taste of there's some little thief in the town. So like you're uncovering secrets and stuff with all these people as well. And like for whatever reason, nobody wants you to leave that island too, which is really interesting. So like there could be a little bit of nefarious stuff going on as well. But overall, it seems like more of a more chill, cute, investigative mystery than anything. And the music and everything is just like, it adds to that too. Like it's very calming, very atmospheric. And the animation is gorgeous. I don't know if you got a really good chance to look at it, but this 3D animation is so pretty, so vibrant. It's like this, you've got like these nice bold illustrations also in this visual novel style when you talk to somebody. So you get all kinds of different mediums, which is kind of nice. So you got your 3D style, you got your illustrations that pop up, you got your kind of holographic cards, and then you've got that diorama mode, which feels very like Paper Mario when you're working the crime scene. So it's like very creative, and I really, really appreciate that about this game.
Even though like at the start, I didn't think I would play this, just looking at it and hearing you talk about it makes me kind of want to play it.
It kind of reminds me of, like, I can't put my finger on something specific. And I know that this is supposed to be like a very Italian influenced game. To me, it feels very comfy anime-esque in that way, like almost Ghibli in that sense. And not in visual style or anything like that, but just in kind of the feel of the game and of the town specifically. I feel a weird sense of nostalgia to it, though it's a game that I've never played before.
And it's not even out yet as of this recording.
Yeah, exactly, which is so weird to say. But like, I think if you, with that in mind, if you watch the trailer or if you check out the demo or something, I think people will understand what I'm saying, especially if you're a fan of things like Studio Ghibli type animes or something. Like, I think you'll get it. So, I mean, overall, I had a really good time with it. I loved the setup. Absolutely loved the gameplay mechanics. It's got a really great twist on the mystery genre. There's so much stuff that you can do while just relaxing to the whole vibe of it all. The only thing I encountered in the demo was that there was a lot of jank with the background and loading times, but I'm just operating under the assumption that they would not release the full game without that addressed. So, it remains to be seen. I'll see what happens in 4 days when it releases, and go from there. But I would absolutely recommend this if you're into detective games, cozy games, or if you just want another game to play in front of the family, because this one seems extremely family friendly as far as that kind of content goes.
Yeah, no murder, apparently. Not at all.
From what I know, no murder. I could be wrong, and I'm going to feel real terrible if you're like, oh, this will be a great game to play with the kids. And then it goes from like, oh, someone stole the alcohol to, oh no, someone gutted Mr. Goat and their like limbs are everywhere. And I'm going to be like, oh,
no,
shit.
the real mystery, the reason you're stuck on that island is because it's a Wicker Man thing and you're about to be sacrificed.
Oh man,
for the crops.
Wouldn't that be a turn? But like, how brilliant would it be though? I am going to talk about a game with a harsh turn towards the end of this episode though, so keep that in mind.
Hey, there you go. Good segue. Well, good segue to way later. That doesn't count as a segue.
Terrible segue.
New game!
For our next topic, we are going to talk about Starless Abyss, and thank you very much to Zayan from No More Robots for sending this game to us. To be determined for the release date, but sometime in 2025. This is developed by Konafa Games, published by No More Robots. For a quick description, Earth has fallen. Science and the occult have united forces to brace for the arrival of the Eldritch. But will the efforts against this strange alien race be enough? Play as one of many proximae used to help defend humanity in this turn-based roguelike intergalactic deck builder. It's a lot of adjectives, my friend.
But they're all true.
This game looked sick, man. So the next two games we're talking about, these are both games that were sent to us by either the developer or the publisher. We were just like, all right, yep, we need to talk about these two because these are really, really interesting. And these were both ones that you played, recorded yourself, and then sent it to me so I could watch gameplay. So take it away, sir. Tell me about how this game, Starless Abyss, works.
Yeah. Luckily, also, for both of these games, the next two games, I was able to play through, not die, and do the entire run of the demo.
Yeah,
so that was just like fortuitous that happened. Because that with roguelikes, you really never know. Sometimes you're dead right away. Sometimes you can make a whole run. But in this case, I did. And for this game specifically, Starless Abyss, like you said, it's a turn-based tactics game with a hex grid layout. So you're kind of looking from an over-the-top view of just kind of the void of space with some kind of cool backgrounds on the back of various things depending on where you are. But essentially, you are acting as three ships, one that your actual character is captaining, and then you've got two just people who have joined you for one reason or another. The ones who came and joined me just kind of came out of nowhere and were like, hey, we're here to support you. And I'm like, all right, cool, I need it. And so you're controlling those. Yeah, you're controlling those three ships with your entire turn. It plays a lot like when you think about a deck builder, when you've got the resources that you're kind of pulling from to pay the cost of your cards. So you start with those 5 resources. Your cards cost, a variety between like 1, 2, 3, depending on what the card does and how powerful it is. So you're having to split that cost between your 3 ships. And at the same time, there is an engine overheat mechanic that each ship has. So if you're firing something like a laser or whatever kind of cannon, the bigger weapons have a higher heat cost. I'm sure there's other items that have a heat cost as well, but you're paying that cost. So you can't always just use one of your, let's say your most powerful ship to do all the firing because it's going to overheat quickly. And then you're going to be kind of out of commission. You're not able to really do anything on the following turns because that heat has to cool down over the course of a couple turns, depending on how much you build it up. So it's kind of balancing that with the cost of the cards. And fortunately, you do have 3 ships to split it between, but it can get out of hand really quickly if you're not careful about how you're balancing everything.
Yeah, I love that balancing aspect. I immediately was just like, man, that is such a cool idea because kind of like you were saying, in most of these types of games, really the one thing that you're balancing is usually your attack power or those points or whatever, which is usually 3 points. You get 3 points, 3 cards, whatever. We see that all the time. We have that in Toads of the Bayou. It's the same in Slay the Spire, things like that. So then adding this on top of that makes you have to think so much more strategically. And I love that because immediately, watching you do this, there's a few instances I'm like, how the heck is he going to get out of this situation? Especially as you got farther along and the enemies, they're called horrors because they're basically the Cthulhu type, Eldritch god things that you would think of Yog-Sothoth and all those things. As more and more of those would start spawning. And for what it looks like too, if you kill them, you still have to destroy the corpse or they'll come back.
Well,
So
they
it's
won't
like,
come back. What I figured out is like those are just there as like blockades to
okay.
like interrupt your movement, but they won't, because I was scared of that too. So
Yeah, that's what I thought it was going to happen.
I would usually try to kill them off because of that, but then later when I couldn't get one, I found out, oh, it just is in my way.
Oh,
That's
I didn't
why
notice
it's
that.
despawning.
Okay, so
yeah.
in that aspect, it's a little bit like Darkest Dungeon, where it's just like that corpse just gets in the way, and then you have to like either destroy it or move around it. So
Right. So maneuvering around it does become part of the challenge also, because their movement is a very big part of this game. Just like a lot of games, like you have to move first, because after you fire your gun, you cannot move. So you can't do like a fire then move kind of thing. I'm sure there's some equipment or something you can get along the way that maybe will change that. But initially you're moving, then you're firing, and it's kind of calculating where you want to move to. You are able to see when you highlight over an enemy who the enemy is aiming at. That can kind of help you be like, okay, I need to get out of the way with this person, or focus down on this enemy because he is going to try to take out my weaker dude, things like that. So you get a lot of like the layout of what's going to happen on the enemy turn in a way that most like card or deck building games will give you. But since this is an overhead tactical game too, it's one where you have to kind of keep a lot more in mind than just like a back and forth. And enemies respawn a lot. And if you go to like harder sections, like different things can happen. There was a lot coming at me, but luckily I was able to pretty much figure out a good flow. The first turn though, or the first like combat round, I didn't even know I could control those other ships. So I just took everything out with my main ship, because I thought the other two were going to act independently, because that's what I'm used to, is just controlling one thing when I'm doing games like this. So the fact that I could control all three is of course very helpful, but also makes you have to think about, okay, positioning everybody, not just one person. And that's actually really nice, because I don't have to rely on AI to try to like do something or accidentally mess up a plan I had. In addition to that, as far as the progression of the game goes, as you're going through the story, you're following a path in the same way that you would in most roguelikes, but this one is sort of an invisible path. You're not seeing exactly where you're going, so you can't plan to go like, oh, there's a bonfire over here or a fire over here, so I'm going to go to that because I know I'll need to heal after a while, things like that. In this case, you're kind of going just through these different warps that give you two options of which kind of place you want to try to get to. The options are combat, stores, or rifts. And I think rifts are always like harder combats. Maybe not always harder combats, but it's always something harder than the normal. As you go to these things, there are times where you'll be interrupted by some kind of like text challenge sort of deal, where it'll just something will pop up and be like for instance, in the case that I was going through this, an eldritch computer virus infected my ship and was threatening to corrupt my entire network. And the impact of failure was that it would change one of my cards into a hindrance card, which essentially is just clogging up my deck, basically.
Yeah.
It's a card I could use, but it damages me, so it's not like a good card to have in my deck. So it's going to clog up my deck if I don't pass this thing. The options you have there are, you have a success chance of about 25%, or not about, like exactly 25% chance on your choices. And so my option was to either purge the corruption completely, which would just like negate all it was trying to do, or remove the card that it was threatening to infect from my deck in case you're trying to like clean out kind of like starter cards from your deck, which is an interesting way to present that even.
Yeah,
but
it is.
If I failed, it was just going to add that corrupted one. So in my case, if you add a dice that, so if you add a dice, so that's a whole nother thing. Sorry, let me start from the top with the dice thing.
Yeah, now we got to talk the dice.
Yeah, so dice, which is just D.I.C.E. I don't know what it stands for, but it is an acronym for something. Your dice are consumable D6 items that can help you pass some challenges. By default, like I said, 25%. If you add a dice that is lower than the challenge rating, in my case, both these were 4s, then it would, bump your chance up to 50%. But if you were able to add a dice that's 4 plus, then it would have given me 100% chance at whatever challenge I was trying to activate. I didn't have any, in my case, 4+ dice, so I just had to give that 50% one a shot. I failed, and I had the thing added to my deck, and it pretty much clogged it the entire time. I never used it, and it would just kind of get in my way. And you can only draw a limited number of cards per turn, so it was really just like trash in there. And that's just an example of like one of the encounters that I got to, but there were many as I was going through of different degrees of difficulty, and that would do different things and sometimes give you like really beneficial options if you pass them. I think I got a new ship out of passing one of them in that way.
Yeah, that was a cool ship too.
Yeah, as far as those new ships go, like you have your 3 ships by default, and you will always have 3 ships, but you can essentially replace the ships with these new ones. Your captain's always going to be like your mainstay, but I think you can also change his ship out. It'll just still be him piloting it. The other 2, who are just kind of random crewmates, their ships can also be replaced. And the reason you want to do this is because it helps you either unlock more upgrade slots for these ships, which is a different mechanic that will give you certain cards. I can't remember exactly what those cards were doing, but some of them would give you like, I don't know, more movement or maybe more firepower in your ship or something like that. And so obviously it's desirable to get more upgrade slots for your ship. But sometimes these more powerful ships come with the cost of like, oh, this one can take less damage, but it does more firepower, or vice versa. It does less damage, but is tankier, things like that. So you're kind of weighing out your options here, deciding between all the items that you have to like upgrade your ships with. Also, when you enter stores, you're using some of the credits that you're acquiring to purchase new cards or upgrades for ships, things like that. And the cards come in, I don't know that this is all of them, but they come in like different kind of types, like attack, defense, and tech. The attack and defense are pretty straightforward. Defense will give you some shielding, attack will do damage, and add overheat to your system as well. The tech ones are the ones that I think will have a lot more variety than at least what was presented here. But a lot of those had to do with like turrets and like creating turrets and then like making those turrets do different things. And it's not the same kind of turrets as like you lay one down and it says set it and forget it kind of thing, and then it'll just be firing off the whole round. They have a limited like amount of turns that they survive. They do like damage within a certain range. And since it's this whole like, you know, hexagonal grid that you're following, you have to like decide where you want to place them. There's a lot for me to think about with those turrets. And I didn't really understand them until maybe like probably 75% through my run, to where I'm like, okay, I know how to strategically place these to make them do what I want to do, because they don't go until the end of your turn. And so you have to think about that. And sometimes they're good for just blocking off enemy movement too. So it's thinking about how to place all these things strategically. So there was a pretty good amount of strategy and a planning that went into all this.
I really do like the turrets specifically, and I hope that, I'm assuming there's a lot more variety and stuff like that. The amount of things that you could do just with that one card was so versatile. And correct me if I'm wrong, there were some cards too, I think that, was there some cards that also reduced your overheat as well?
Yes, I know I had at least 1 or 2 of those.
Yeah.
And those are nice, obviously, because then you can use it on whatever ship you want to be attacking with. And then it added some other kind of bonus too. I can't remember exactly what all it did, but I know that I did utilize that a lot. I had one also that was like a ram another ship. And so the amount of tiles you travel to the other ship is the amount of damage it would do, which I thought was really interesting. So you're damaging your own ship a little bit, but also doing a set amount depending on how far you actually move your ship to get to the other one. And then like there was a turret surge that made all my turrets like attack instantly and do like double damage, and then like double the range of normal. So there's a lot of synergy in there that I'm sure you can find. And this is just like an early access version of this game. And already there was a lot of like customization I could see.
We haven't even talked about the art of this game yet, because it is so good. Man, that is a huge highlight of this. I mean, it's all pixel art, but also there's like a lot of, as far as when you see the humans and stuff, because you do get these kind of like HUD pop-ups where you see someone communicating between you with your person and like, you know, another ship or something. And it's kind of like this anime sort of style, but all still done through pixel. One thing I wanted to say is like the pixel art is so intricate and is probably some of the best pixel art animation I have seen in a game for a very, very long time. If it might be some of the best. There's so much animation in this game, all done through pixel, and it looks amazing.
Yeah, it looks really good, and the animation is very fluid too, so it doesn't feel like, I don't know, it's not slowed down or anything, and or it's moving at like a snail's pace. Like your ships are, when they move, like they really like fly around and not just moving like block to block or anything. They look like very organic in the way that they are actually moving around. The anime like style that it was most comparable to, I think, would be like those 70s space animes, like Space Pirate Captain Harlock or Space Battleship Yamato. Like those are the two that I think if you look at that, you can really get a sense of what we're talking about when we say it's like a pixel anime style.
And also the music was great too.
Oh man,
I was grooving to it.
I too was grooving to it. Yeah.
It goes like, so good.
It goes like way harder and sometimes much more elegantly than it really needed to for the setting that it's in. And I was really digging it. Like that was really one of the highlights. Like the whole time you've got this awesome soundtrack going on while you're going through these battles.
It's one of those where you don't notice you're doing the head bob until you've probably already been doing it for several minutes.
Yeah, why does my neck hurt?
Yeah, because we're old. We woke up the next morning and like our neck, we had to go to the hospital.
That's a question we ask ourselves every morning.
Yeah.
The soundtrack, sticking on that for a second, like as you're taking these turns, because it's a turn-based combat, it's one where sometimes you're going to sit there and concentrate for a little bit, but with that music going on in the background, it keeps it like exciting, I guess, in a way, or kind of like it keeps you engaged in what's going on, even though there are those still moments of like, oh, I got to plan out my next attack, my movement, whatever. It never feels dull, even for like a turn-based thing.
I really, really want to get my hands on it. So it's on my wish list.
Once I got like the flow of repositioning the ships, balancing the heat buildup, and, you know, getting through the learning curve that any game has, especially once I started bringing those turrets in the mix and kind of controlling 3 units at once. Once I got all of that kind of under control, which didn't take too long, I was just really, like, the game itself felt really, really good. The combat felt great. The deck building synergy seemed like it would be really fun to experiment with, even with this like early copy of the game. And the different paths and upgrade options were interesting. I, like I said, was able to beat the game, even though it's just the alpha or beta build, whatever it is at this point, in about 50 minutes. But the title was like Act 1, so I know there's going to be more to come after that. And beating it also unlocked a new character, Silo, who is just like a big brain controlling a ship. So even with this early build, there's more to experiment with, which is very cool. So would I recommend it? Absolutely, even though it's pretty early on, since this was, like I said, the alpha or beta build, but I got a really good impression of what's probably going to end up being the primary loop of this game. So if you're a fan of deck building games, roguelikes, and kind of more dynamic tactical combat games, then I 100% think that you'll enjoy this one. It's already on my wish list too, so I'll be keeping an eye on the progress for sure. And as a side note, for anyone who is interested in trying it out, I think you can still grab a beta key from the news section of the Starless Abyss Steam page, as well as join their Discord if you want to give any feedback or suggestions, which they seem very open to, which is cool.
Yeah, definitely check that out. Add it to your wish list, especially if you are into roguelike deck builders. Thank you again to Zayan from No More Robots for sending this to us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
New game!
So on to our last topic of the day. This is Dice Legends. Again, this was another game that was sent to us from the developer. So thank you to Ole from A Few Heroes. This is going to release approximately second quarter of 2025. He wasn't totally for sure. It could be maybe end of first quarter, but maybe beginning of second quarter. Developed and published by a few heroes. For a short description, Dice Legends is a game that combines dice rolling mechanics and card collecting. And in it, you can collect unique cards that will allow you to create incredibly powerful combos against your enemies. I feel like this one's a little bit more straightforward than the last game that we talked about. He described it in his email to us like a combination of Slay the Spire and Dicey Dungeons, which I think is a pretty apt description of it.
Yeah. I totally forgot about Dicey Dungeons, but yes. It's another roguelike, just FYI. We talk about a lot of roguelikes on here. There's a lot of indie roguelike games that are just great. So I want to start there.
Yes.
But, so it's a turn-based one, very similar to Slay the Spire, as he said. Even the layout is very Slay the Spire-esque, where you've got one character standing on the left, one on the right, and you're just doing combat with your cards. But in addition to that, you also have, well, first of all, your cards are your damage, your block, your buff, your debuff, and your dice action cards. So chaining off of that, dice are, since it is Dice Legends, are what's brought into this that makes it very unique, because your dice is, instead of, let's say, your 5 resources or 3 resources or whatever that we were talking about earlier in a lot of card-based deck building games, this one, you have your 4 starting D6s that you roll, and those essentially become your resources. And what makes that so interesting is that the different card types require different sorts of dice to activate. So you won't always want to roll like the highest number. You don't always want to roll 6s, because some cards are like 1 to 3 cost. Some require duplicates, like you insert 2 of whatever numbers in there. Some are specific numbers, like I can only insert a 6 or I can only insert a 5 or something like that. And then some you can insert multiple dice into in order to add up to a total number, like a 10. So it's like I could do either 2 5s or 5 2s, something like that, where there's so much variety to the different card types that you really have to keep in mind and kind of head math everything as you're going through. It's like, okay, I could use my 5 and my 2 here to add to this 5, or I could save those for this other thing and then use my 6 to get that one. And it's a lot of doing that. And as when you were watching my playthrough, you probably saw me picking up a dice and dragging it over a card and then changing my mind, because I'm like, no.
Dropping it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. That happened a lot.
There's a better move. Yeah. Because it's just a lot of thinking on the spot as you're trying to really optimize your turns. And I think that's what's very cool. Even though with those resource costing games, similar to Starless Abyss as we were talking about before, you are having to balance out your turns in different ways. This made it a very dynamic kind of it gave it a real RNG feel to it, where it's like, I really hope I roll well enough to utilize these cards. Because if I had, for instance, a bunch of cards that cost 6 exactly, but I didn't roll any 6s, and it's like, well, I can do nothing this turn. And so that is where you kind of have to think about the cards you're picking up also to give yourself enough variety to where you're always able to do something as you go through your deck.
It's a simple premise with so much complexity within that of what can happen, especially with that RNG. I'm just kind of dumbfounded. I'm like, how have we not seen this before? But this is great.
Yeah, I was really blown away by that. When I had first seen the game and was downloading it and about to play it, I was thinking it was going to be just a really straightforward, experience, and I wasn't going to get a lot out of it, because it, on paper and just as we're saying it, it sounds simple, but I've not really seen it done in this way, especially with all the variety. That's what it is. It's the variety of ways you can use your dice, where it's not always about rolling the highest number. So that just adds this mechanic to it where you are kind of victim to what your rolls give you, although you do have a chance to reroll 2 of your dice every turn. So that's very nice and did really save me sometimes. But it also makes you adjust on the fly to whatever your rolls give you.
I also like that addition that you kind of can take a little bit of a gamble too, where you've got the one card you can do where you can drop a die in it and not use that die on that turn and basically save it for your next turn.
Yeah.
And I think that was a really good addition too, and makes it really interesting.
And along with that also, you also are getting to, as you're fighting these enemies, you're finding new gear and things that you're equipping to your character. So you have like item slots around you. So you've got your, you can hold a sword, you can like equip chest armor, boots, things like that, gloves. And those will all give you some kind of benefit that's very noticeable in when you're playing through this. Like the sword, I think the one I had added like 3 extra damage to all my attacks, or gave me a basic like starting attack of +3, which is super nice and really came in handy. And then I also got another card that was like Berserk. With that, it would double the amount of power that I had. And power is what, like with the sword, adds to the damage you're putting out. So let's say I have a card and it's an attack card and it's like insert dice here amount of damage, and I put a 6 in there. It's like, okay, cool. But I have an attack of 6 built up also, or a power of 6 built up, then that's 12 total damage I'm doing. So then when I've doubled my 6 or let's say 10 damage with my Berserk, now it's a 20 attack. So that 6 attack that I'm doing now becomes a 26. And it's like stacking things up like that. Like you said in the description, like those combos are so important and really like saved me multiple times, or helped me survive battles that I didn't even think I would have a chance on. Even on the opening battle that you're supposed to lose, I was still able to do more than half the damage to this dude who had like 600 health because I got a really cool combo going on.
I wanted to mention that it totally does an Elden Ring on you, where it's just like, oh, here you go. You're like, you start off right away with no explanation. Like you just get dropped into the combat like right there. And it's like, by the way, it's impossible to win. Here you go. So you were still like really putting in some effort though. Like you got him down a bit.
I was surprisingly close. I don't know if you could possibly beat him, but
I'd be really interested to see if someone does.
I'm sure someone will find a way, but I just think it's cool starting you out with something like that, so you see what the stakes are, or at least how hard the enemies can get, and then it dials it back, and it's like, okay, now let me explain everything to you, because I think the text was like, this has happened before, and then you start over and you're starting with your basic like goblin enemies, things like that, to warm you up to what the challenge is. And this is the same kind of layout as a lot of roguelikes, with the map, with the actual visible map where you choose the path that you're going down. So I tried to like aim for a lot of the elite enemies just so I could get like a really good experience of like what this all was. And I was able to get through it all. There were some battles that I really like swept through surprisingly fast. And there were some that was like, oh man, this is like super close. Like especially the last boss of this, and this is just the last boss of this first area. Like I really thought I was going to die because he got me down to like less than half health. It was long because he kept summoning these ads also. And so I have to not only take them out, because I don't even think I can, I can damage him when the ads are there, but the ads are doing extra damage to me that I can't afford to be taking. So stacking up block becomes like imperative. And block is like, in this game, super cool because it doesn't wear off at the start of your turn like block does in almost every other roguelike I've played. Yeah.
I love that. Please, more games. Just keep our block, please.
Let me hold on to my block. Yeah. So
seriously.
My assumption, because of how I've been trained by all these other games, was that I was going to lose that block. But then once I noticed that I didn't, I was like, oh my gosh, I really need to play into block more. So that became one of my mainstay cards, is this spiky block, which is a card that not only gives me 15 block right away, but also gives me like 3 of the, whatever the thorn equivalent is. It might be called thorns. I don't remember. Doing damage to the enemies based on the amount of stacks that I have. And those don't wear off either. So those I could continue stacking. Every time I got that spiky shield card, I was able to stack those 3 thorns and 15 shields on top of that, on top of whatever shields I had left. And so by the end of the boss, I think I had like 20 something thorns, and I was surviving because I was over blocking a lot of the damage, even though he was doing like sometimes like a crazy amount of damage and breaking through my shield. I know that's what kept me alive. There was no way I could have survived that battle without like a massive amount of shields, especially that spiky shield.
But that last attack you did, you managed to get a whole bunch of things to stack, and you did a massive amount of damage on that last turn, which is what took him out. And it just, it goes to show like that basically was kind of the essence of what this game is supposed to be, is like using those tools and making them work in, all of these different ways to get those huge things of damage. It's not unlike some of the best roguelike games out there, like Balatro or something, where it's all about being really smart about what things work together to create larger combinations. And it's not always the brute force kind of tactic of like card with big damage do the most. It's, what effects will stack together and create this thing that maybe can be a little OP if I play it just right. It just makes it really rewarding that way.
Yeah, there's a lot of build up to it, but to the extent that it's like so the base card, I'm looking at the last boss right now as I was finishing him off. The base card I had was called Twin Strike, and it does 7 damage 2 times, but it requires doubles to even play. So I fortunately had 2 6s on this last turn. He still had both his ads up at this point because he kept resummoning them. So I could have, but he only had 78 health left. So I was like, okay, I think I can hedge my bets and assume that my Twin Strikes can only do 7 damage each. Will do this with my 2 6s because at that point, I think I had like a 40 something attack bonus. So it's like, okay, I'm going to do at least 47 damage twice to him. 80 something is more than 78. So I think I can take this guy out. And so I took a chance and just like went right for him. And the animation was so cool because he like turned into a skeleton, then crumbled to the ground.
That was so good.
For as like simplistic as the pixel art is, it is like nicely detailed and the animations are really cool. Even when you're idle, you're like moving around, like kind of bouncing around. It's not like just still images. So I really appreciate that. And the backgrounds are super nice. Like that's why, like when we say Slay the Spire, it is very like resemblant of that, but in a more pixelated format.
I really enjoyed the design of this, and especially like the sprite design of all of the enemies was really good. And I think one thing that really, I don't know why this stuck out to me, but it was just one thing that I noted that I loved. It was just this little animation thing is right before the boss fight. You've got like that pixel kind of, image of like the castle gate kind of thing. And then the gate lifts up and then the doors open and it's all very smoothly animated in that pixel art style. And just for whatever reason, seeing that, and I think you actually had to do the action, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I had to click to open the door. And it raised a gate and then pushed this door open, all in this pixelated art, but it was so smooth.
For whatever reason, that really clicked with me. And I was just like, dude, that is such a really cool, like unnecessary, but perfect flourish to add to this game to make it feel more epic. You've got through all these battles and you're like actually lifting the gate, pushing the door open to go after this final boss. And I'm like, man, that was just badass.
And after some of the fights, like you break open, or there's these like vases that are there and you literally have to like click on them and break it open to get whatever items inside. So it's those small flourishes that are unnecessary at the end of the day, but they're fun additions to it.
Absolutely.
So my experience with this game, it incorporates a lot of what I enjoy about deck building roguelikes in general. The map, you get to choose your path on, the cards with strong synergies, and the blend of that strategic deck customizations with the excitement and like uncertainty of RNG. So the dice mechanic really helps it stand out in an interesting way, forcing me to math out moves. And I love numbers. So it helped me to like optimize my turns or try to optimize my turns in ways that I haven't really needed to think about in other games. It's like, okay, I can't even afford this other card in like in other games. So I can't play it. In this case, it's like, okay, do I have the right dice to put in this card? And if I re-roll, maybe there's a chance I will get those dice. So it was interesting in a way that I'm not saying it's better than like resource cost games, but it was just an interesting diversion from that and something new to experience. So initially, like I was trying to aim for just pure damage because like I was trying to make sure I got through this game. But the more that I saw how important defense was and the fact that it didn't wear off, that's when I really started like aiming my build towards that instead, just to maximize my survivability. And it really paid off in the end. Something else I really appreciate is that the decks seem, at least initially in this like first chapter or whatever, seem relatively small, even after all the cards I had picked up in addition. I think my total deck was around 11 cards, and that is a very small deck, meaning I will cycle through that much quicker and get back to the cards I actually want without having to do something like, oh, I need to trash my first like 10 attack cards or 10 defense cards because they're super weak in comparison to the rest. So this was just a really like quick way for me to turn things around and see the results of the purchases that I was making, which I really appreciated. After beating the demo, you do get a pop-up window that tells you about what will be included in the full release, and that includes new characters, more enemies, bigger bosses, lots of new cards and items, different chapters, of course, and much, much more, apparently. So it's challenging for me to get a true read on the game based on a short demo alone, of course, especially something that's still in progress and still has like, at months before the real release comes out. But with what I did get to experience, combined with the promise of what's to come, like this game has already made it to my wish list, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing the full version. I think if you like deck building games as well, and just want to try one with something a little bit different added to it, this will definitely be one you want to give a shot to.
Yeah, exactly. This is one that I've got on my wish list already as well. I'm very, very much looking forward to this. This looks like a game that I would be stuck on my Steam Deck with for a very, very long time. Big thanks once again to Ole. Ole? I don't know. One of those. It's gonna like either way. I'm gonna feel like an idiot trying to say his name because I'm a dumb American. Thank you for reaching out and letting us try out your game.
Combo!
As far as other games we've been playing, I played a lot of games this week, Joseph. This is probably the most I've played in a week, especially bringing stuff to the show. But one of them was another one I talked about last week, which was the Midnight Crimes. Real cool story, very cinematic. But I do want to say it really suffers from an extreme like navigation challenge. And what I mean by that is the camera angle shifts so often, like as you are moving your character, which is not like WASD. It is kind of like the old Diablo style, like, click your mouse, character moves to that spot. But as you do that, the camera will keep changing to all these different, very creative angles for kind of a cinematic look. And it looks really cool, but you get turned around very, very easily, which made it extremely hard to navigate. There's also a combat mechanic involved in this as well, which is kind of arcadey in a very House of the Dead sort of sense, that it did not feel super well balanced and honestly felt very out of place from the rest of the game. So with this one, I would say as it stands, I feel like it really needs some quality of life improvements and maybe a few other updates for me to want to keep playing more. But I think were that to happen, I would want to play more because I am really, really interested in this story to the point if I don't play more of it, like I do want to watch a full Let's Play of this because I'm like, I really, really like the characters and I like where the story's going. And the world building is fantastic and very creepy. There's some stuff in the graveyard that I was like, oh God, this is it leans into horror a little bit, which is pretty fun. So, interesting. The next game I played was the Toxic Crusaders demo. Toxic Crusaders. It's an action-packed beat-em-up game where players take control of one of 7 playable characters, each with their own unique moves and abilities. The game features up to 4-player local co-op, allowing friends to team up and take on hordes of radiation rangers, mutated thugs, and zombie chickens across 7 disgusting levels, rendered in beautiful, full-color pixel art graphics. You and I have both been wanting to play this forever and been wondering, when is the real game coming out? I don't know.
Yeah. I keep thinking that about this and the Toxic Avenger movie, the new one, that I don't think is ever coming out.
That one's never coming out, man. You need to you need to square away with that.
I have friends who have seen it, and I really want to see it.
I know. If you were a fan of the cartoon show from the 90s, you're going to like this. It feels so much like it, including tons of voice lines. There is so many voice lines in this throughout, like even through the beat 'em up levels. Like as you are fighting, characters will kind of pop up towards like the bottom corners of the screen in like a visual novel kind of style and do like banter and stuff. And I love that. And I don't know if they got some of the old voice actors or if it's new cast. They all sound like the original cartoon, man. Especially Toxie. It is uncanny. So that was great. I would say this though, it doesn't bring anything new to the beat 'em up genre. The actions are very simple, basic attacks, like you have like a punch, a kick. You have a meter that you can fill up to perform a special attack. It's a very, very basic formula. So, nothing different about it, but you still get the formula with the, fun of the toxic Crusaders over the top of it. But it's like if I was going to compare it to like when Shredder's Revenge came out, Shredder's Revenge felt like it changed a little bit to the formula because it gave you the option to block and things like that. This one just really doesn't have that. This one feels much older. Like this one feels like it still has the sensibilities of the old Super Nintendo style. It was still a lot of fun.
Nice.
Next game I played was Ballionaire, which is from your library because you just bought it.
Playing one of my games before I even get to. I need to find a way to like any game I haven't played in my library. No one else gets to play yet. That's what I'm going to try to find a setting that will do that.
Ballionaire is a fast-paced kinetic roguelike where strategy meets physics to create outrageous wealth. This is a pachinko roguelike where each turn you can add in new pegs that have different abilities, worth, or multipliers to try to get your ball to bounce around and earn increasing amounts of money each level. This was super fun. It felt very addicting in the way that Balatro was when Balatro first came out because of like the variety of the pegs, all the different things that they do. And also like the idea that some of them you can like, do some synergy kind of stuff with it. You've got multipliers and things that you want to mess around with and just trying to get that money number to keep going up and up and up and up and up. It's super fun, man. I think you're going to have a really good time with it. I was playing it on the Steam Deck. It is a perfect game for the Steam Deck. And it's also like the art of it is so weird and goofy. It's hard not to love.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to playing the game that I purchased. Thank you for testing it for me.
And the last one that I played that I'm going to bring up is MiSide. And this is the one that I was talking about. It's got a bit of a twist. MiSide revolves around a protagonist who is drawn into the digital world by his favorite character, Mita. Initially presented as a Tamagotchi-style relationship where the protagonist cares for Mita, the story quickly turns surreal and disturbing as the lines between reality and the digital world blur. Players navigate a transforming environment, uncover Mita's secrets, and grapple with her growing sentience. So what this is basically you are playing a guy who is playing a game on his phone. That game on his phone is sort of not quite a Tamagotchi kind of thing, but it's like almost like a little digital girlfriend kind of, I don't know, chibi girl. And you do things for her, like you buy her presents, you play little mini games to earn money and buy her a TV and stuff. And then all of a sudden she's just kind of like, I want to meet you in real life. And it sort of breaks that fourth wall a little bit. And you're just like, wait, what? And like some things start happening. And then all of a sudden, like you as that dude get sucked into her world, like that game. And man, I don't want to spoil too much. It feels like Doki Doki Literature Club, but in 3D, and the horror gets dialed up to 11. Well, let me tell you that. I love it.
I do appreciate the masking of like a peaceful, cozy game, and then there being something more sinister underneath.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Chaining off of my review from last episode, Entropy Survivors is one that I spent a lot more time with because I actually purchased it. Since last episode, I was just playing through the demo. Really enjoyed that. So I picked it up. I think it was like $8.99, maybe even less. I have spent about 5.5 hours on it at this point. So for anyone hearing about this game for the first time, if you didn't listen to last episode, this is a bullet heaven type game from the Shoulders of Giants universe where you're playing as both a frog and a robot that he's standing on top of simultaneously. And what this amounts to is different sets of attacks for each, some more ridiculous than others, like summoning a legion of space garbage trucks or using a beehive gun. Anyway, I've been playing a ton of that as kind of filler when I've only got around 20 or 30 minutes to kill, because just like most survival games, you can get through a run very quickly, or the runs really like max out at about 20 minutes on this one. It's a very quick game, pretty easy to pick up, but it can get very challenging since there's different difficulty levels you can do of each of the planets you can go to. Had a lot of fun with that one. The other game I played was Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Rita's Rewind. For anyone who doesn't think it counts as an indie game, it was developed and published by Digital Eclipse, which I'm pretty sure is still considered an indie studio who just work with larger franchises sometimes, so it still counts.
All right, there we go.
And the plot of this one involves a robotic reincarnation of Rita Repulsa going back in time to the 90s to vanquish the classic Rangers by teaming up with her younger self, because of course.
I love that. I love that premise.
So this essentially amounts to you reliving the past Ranger stories, starting from the very beginning when Zordon was looking for, teenagers or whatever he said, people with attitude or something.
Teenagers with attitude?
Yeah, teenagers with attitude to join his team of Rangers in order to fight off Rita Repulsa. So it's reliving those moments, but with the addition and kind of remix/rewrite of robotic Rita in there too, convincing and kind of like twisting some of the things around or helping her younger self, I guess, make things more diabolical. And you're even having to relive like the introduction of Tommy as he goes. I haven't gotten to that point yet because I only played through the first chapter of it, which was probably 3 or 4 levels. As you're going through that, you're kind of reliving stories of the past with the slight twist on it. Like I said, it's definitely not as refined of a side-scrolling beat 'em up, much like Toxie, as you were saying earlier, as Strider's Revenge or Streets of Rage 4 or anything like that. But for fans of the classic Power Ranger beat 'em up games, like I think this will really scratch that itch. You have your basic combat with attacks, combos, and dodge, which is very welcome. And you also have that screen clearing special that develops over time or charges over time, just like with most beat 'em ups. And in addition to that, you get these extra levels where you're piloting specific Rangers, Dinozords, whoever you're controlling. Like I played as Billy, so I was controlling the Triceratops for these levels, and where you're fighting bigger enemies. Then you have the bike levels where you're riding on whatever their cycles are called. And then you, of course, get the Megazord levels to fight off the giant bosses. And those are weird or interesting in a way where it's like, I don't know how like different they'll get, but initially you kind of have a first person perspective. So you're in the droid or you're in the Megazord as your full team. You are doing punches and movements to get up to the enemy. You can dodge enemy attacks like by swaying left to right. And every time you take a hit, it will show, kind of like on the TV show, like when you saw the Ranger get hit, it would zoom into their cockpit and you would see them all like go, stuff like that. So when you take a hit from those, it will do that where you're seeing the perspective of the Rangers, or you're seeing them from that cockpit view and seeing like explosions happen around them as they react to it. So that was really interesting. I don't know if you can lose those levels because I got hit a lot and I was like, do I have health? Like, can I get hurt? I mean, the Megazord level specifically. The other levels you have health and it's clear to see and you have a certain amount of lives. But in those, I don't know if they're just like bonus to the point where it's like, you can't really die. I don't know what the point of even taking hits is aside from just the spectacle of it. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you can, and I just wasn't able to see where the health tracker was on that. So the idea of those, though, is as you hit enemies and kind of perform combos on them with your fist, you will slowly charge up your sword meter. And once that's fully charged up, then you will do your finishing slash, just like in the show, and finish off the enemy. Like once you get up to the sword, it's not like you're doing a sword fight from there. It's just that's the finishing blow. So that's kind of the general mechanic of at least the first chapter that I played of it. It does the thing where it's like it's talking and going through the story like, oh, we're the whole team working together. But then like everybody else disappears and it's just Billy doing his own thing. So that's kind of like funny that they just keep that story moving. It doesn't revolve around like your character specifically. It's a team game obviously intended to be played multiplayer. I don't know how many players it goes up to, 4 at least, but maybe more, I'm not sure. I think you can do online it says you can do online and local co-op. I did see a review that said you can't do online co-op, but I haven't tried it, so I can't speak to that. I've only played the first chapter so far. Definitely planning to finish it since I've already purchased the game, and I am having a lot of nostalgic fun with it. I will say, even since I'm still very early in the game, my opinion may change as I go through it. I might start to get tired of those bonus levels. And from what I'm seeing in the reviews, I'd say either wait for a big sale on this since it was $30 at launch, or a big patch that fixes a lot of what the common complaints seem to be. I'm not having any problems with it, but I'm early on, so my views may change.
It's another one of those indie games that took on a large IP, and therefore that price point, because of it, is really suffering. It is very, very big. It's quite a big ask for a shorter game, just like with the Retro Realms games as well.
Exactly, yeah. Like the Halloween and what was the other one?
Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Billy was a good pick, even though we know Trini is probably the best. Just saying.
I had to try Billy first. Well, okay, so one of the things that bothers me about it a little bit is, you know how in Ninja Turtles or in a lot of those games, it's like you have your dudes where it's like you have your stats where it's like, okay, this person has more power, but less speed. This person has more speed, but less power, or this person's balanced, things like that. It doesn't seem to be any of that going on. And that is like a weird thing to me. So like all Rangers effectively play the same in that sense. I'm sure their combos are different and stuff, but it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of like variety there.
Yeah.
That seems like a really simple place to start with kind of differentiating your characters. So
seems like a missed opportunity.
Minor complaint, but it seems like just a weird thing that they missed out on.
Final round!
Upcoming games on our radar. I just learned recently, and this was through Blue Sky. So I'm still plugging, hey, we're on Blue Sky, go over there, please. I try to post something, at least something every day. I don't know. I just learned about Crescent County, which looks really cool. This is a game about witches who trick out their brooms to make deliveries on the island that they live on, and also race each other. It's super bright and colorful, and I love the idea not only because it's unique, but because I have a fondness for witches. But I'm really, really excited to try this out and try out the demo soon. It's such a cool idea of like this racing game, but with witches on like super extreme fast brooms.
It does look like you trick out your broom to race your new friends and crushes. So there might be a social element to it, which could be interesting. The one that I saw that actually came out today, the day that we're recording this, which is the 12th, MiSide, which is a co-op another beat 'em up, I know, RPG with the heart of a Saturday morning cartoon, apparently.
Oh, it was made for us.
Yes.
It was made for us.
You play as an unfinished doodle in an old notebook trying to discover who they are. You fight back against an enemy that's basically your enemy is corrupted by water that's dripping onto the world, and the world consists of notebooks. So as the water is dripping onto these notebooks, it's leaking into your pages, and the art, the drawings, or whoever that's getting affected by that becomes soggy, which is essentially, I guess, the version of corrupted in this world. So already, like, that's an interesting concept. Like, that could be just like it, and it's like, okay, I'm still interested in playing this game as an RPG. But the combat apparently is like a modified beat 'em up style dodgeball game where you are on either side and you have a dodgeball mechanics, obviously with a lot of modifications to them, and still like the essential beat 'em up thing where you are going and fighting your enemy like face to face. Just from what I've seen in some of the trailers, just looks really cool. And there's a lot of like different ads and things you can pick up or modifications you can make to either the dodgeball that you have or the style or moves that you're doing on the opponent. And the sketchy, cartoonish art style is obviously very appealing to me. And so I'm super into it and will probably be picking it up in the very near future since it's already out.
Yeah, this looks really good. I was looking at the art of it and I'm really digging that. It looks like there's a lot of really fun characters and stuff to it.
What I like about that is it just seems weird in the way that it's like, why dodgeball? With this entire world that you've set up of drawings and the notebook and everything, like dodgeball is just a weird add to an already strange concept. So that it just seems like it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Speaking of things that would be a lot of fun, I think it would be a lot of fun if you shared this episode with someone who loves indie games. And you can catch me playing a few of the games that we talked about on the show over on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/nerdsloth. Games like On Your Tail and MiSide. I get real scared playing MiSide. So if you want to watch a grown man get scared of a little anime girl, you can go watch that. It'll be fun. There's also hundreds of hours of bonus content, including a bonus podcast for those that are at the $5 tier over at the Nerdsloth Treehouse, which you can join by subscribing at patreon.com/nerdsloth. We also do have the $1 subscriber tier as well. For those of you that just want a lot of stuff, you still get hundreds of hours of stuff. You just don't get that extra bonus podcast. And guess what's up there? My playthrough of The Edge of Allegoria, at least an hour and a half of it, because I wasn't comfortable putting it on YouTube, but you can watch it over there at the Treehouse. We also have our subreddit you can join and post reviews if you want of indie games, and I'm posting reviews of indie games, some of which we talk about here on the show in a little bit more thought out format, some of which we have not talked about on the show. Yeah, go do those things. It'll be a lot of fun. I promise. I promise.
Game over.
But that's game over for us. My name's Chris.
I'm Joseph.
And we'll continue on the next episode.
Continue.
Indie Game Arcade is recorded and produced by Sloth Creative. If you're looking for more gaming content, head over to youtube.com/nerdsloth. For additional podcasts, go to nerdsloth.com. If you'd like to support the show, there are multiple tiers available at patreon.com/nerdsloth, with hundreds of hours of bonus content from everything we do at Nerdsloth Creative, including bonus gameplay videos of the games we talk about on the show. The theme music for the show is Retro Game Tapes by Audio Lime. If you'd like to get in touch with us, or if you're an indie game developer and would like us to consider reviewing your game, send us an email to podcasts@nerdsloth.com with the subject line Indie Game Arcade.